अगर हमें फ्रीडम की बात करनी है तो हमें अपनी भाषाओं की भी बात करनी पड़ेगी। जो यूनाइटेड मद्रास जब तब था, जब सी राजगोपालाचारी जब चीफ मिनिस्टर थे, तो ही ट्राइड टू शिफ्ट the course of the river waters from the Telugu speaking areas to the Tamil speaking areas. People who were democratic in their thought and people who wanted to do things. बाद में differences हुए how political leaders look at things from their perspective. They have a very different imagination. 1971 के सेंसस के मुताबिक हमारे सिर्फ 8% MPs जो हैं वो अर्बन एरिया से इलेक्ट हुए। मुझे नहीं लगता कि एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिवली हम अगले साल तक सेंसस कर पाएंगे which will engage all political parties. We have less than 4,000 MLAs in the country because in the current regime of things, I mean, UP is big. Huge. No comparison is an absolute. Comparison is always in relation to somebody else. Democracy will also demand that people get their expression. If you do much better than me, then I'm not very happy. That's the problem.
Uttisht Jagrita Prapya Varanna Bodha. Arise, awake and strive for knowledge. नमस्कार। ब्रिटिश रूल के प्रोविंसेस और 562 प्रिंसली स्टेट से लेकर आज के भारत के नक्शे में बहुत कुछ बदल चुका। अगर आप जानना चाहते हैं कि ब्रिटिश ने अपने काल में इंटरनल बाउंड्रीज को कैसे तय किया, स्वतंत्रता के बाद सरदार पटेल का प्रिंसली स्टेट्स के मर्जर में क्या योगदान था, कैसे भाषा, गवर्नेंस और पॉलिटिक्स ने राज्यों के निर्माण को प्रभावित किया, और आज के वक्त में डिलिमिटेशन एक बार से चर्चा में है। 2026 के बाद होने वाले बदलावों में क्या संतुलन बदलेगा, इसके राजनीतिक और प्रशासनिक क्या चुनौतियां होंगी, तो आप ये एपिसोड आखिर तक जरूर देखिए। आज हमारे साथ फॉर्मर IAS ऑफिसर, लबासना के फॉर्मर डायरेक्टर, थॉट लीडर और कई महत्वपूर्ण किताबों के लेखक डॉक्टर संजीव चोपड़ा हैं, और आज हम इनके साथ बात करेंगे भारत की इंटरनल बाउंड्रीज के इतिहास और फ्यूचर के बारे में। नमस्कार सर, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है द इंडिक पेन उत्तिष्ठ भारत सीरीज में। यू जस्ट हैव योर न्यू बुक आउट ऑन लाल बहादुर शास्त्री जी एंड मेनी कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशंस फॉर इट। आई जस्ट स्टार्टेड रीडिंग इट and once I'm done, I promise to bring you back on the show for a detailed conversation on this. But today I think because there's a lot of conversation around delimitation, तो मुझे लगा मुझे आज आपको आपकी इससे पहले वाली किताब के लिए इनवाइट करना चाहिए, because that is a book that gives us a lot about the history of India and how the boundaries, the internal boundaries were marked for Bharat. आपका जो पहला चैप्टर शुरू होता है उस बुक पे, वो शुरू होता है the map of 1947 when India got its independence. लेकिन मैं थोड़ा सा पहले, एक स्टेप पहले जाना चाहूँगी और इस कॉन्वर्सेशन की शुरुआत करना चाहूँगी from the 9 provinces, the princely states that we had, the 562 princely states. जब ब्रिटिश भारत आए 1700s में, और जो उन्होंने अपना पहला व्यू दिया इन टर्म्स ऑफ द बाउंड्रीज ऑफ भारत, पहले तो मुझे ये बताइए कि उन्होंने जो पहला मैप इशू किया था उसमें उन्होंने बाउंड्रीज किस तरह से मार्क की थी भारत की?
थैंक यू लिपिका। जो एक्चुअली जो सबसे पहला जो मैप हमारे पास उपलब्ध है जी, जो सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया, तब सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया का नाम सर्वे ऑफ बंगाल था। तो सबसे पहला मैप 1796 में जो हमारे पास रिकॉर्ड में है सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया की आर्काइव्स में, वो है जब वो गवर्नर जनरल तब वॉरेन हेस्टिंग्स थे। करेक्ट। तो उनके टेबल के पीछे एक मैप लगाया था उन्होंने, उसमें लिखा था उन्होंने द मैप ऑफ आवर इंडियन पोजेशंस। सो इंडिया वाज बिग एट दैट टाइम, बट उनके पास तो सिर्फ वो प्लासी का एरिया था। दे हैड जस्ट गॉट द राइट्स ओवर बंगाल, बट दैट बंगाल वाज बंगाल, बिहार, उड़ीसा वाला जो पूरा एरिया था। उसके बाद क्या हुआ कि जो उनकी जो एक ट्रेडिशन थी वो ये थी कि जैसे जैसे और एरिया गवर्नर जनरल के ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी के पास आता था तो वो उसको ऐड करते रहते थे मैप में। तो एक भारत का नक्शा तो था, लेकिन उस भारत के नक्शे में वो हाईलाइट होता था कि दिस इज द मैप ऑफ इंडियन पोजीशंस, बिकॉज यू सी टिल एंड वो मैप बड़ा ग्रेजुअली इंक्रीज करता है। जब वो सिकंदराबाद लेते हैं, फिर वो इलाहाबाद लेते हैं, फिर वो अवध को लेते हैं, तो इस तरह से वो मैप जो है वो बढ़ता जाता है। और फिर जो जो एरियाज, जो जो जिन जिन राजाओं के साथ, जिन जिन स्टेट्स के साथ उनकी सेटलमेंट होती है, एंड दे गेट इनटू अ रिलेशनशिप विद दोस, सो दैट आल्सो देन स्टार्ट्स गेटिंग रिफ्लेक्टेड एज पार्ट्स ऑफ द एरियाज वेयर दे हेल्ड सुजरैनिटी। सो इस तरह से जो हमारे नक्शे थे, भारत के जो नक्शे थे, वो हमारे पास उसका रिकॉर्ड 1796 के बाद का जो रिकॉर्ड है वो मैंने देखा है। उससे पहले जो था उसके बारे में मैं कमेंट नहीं कर सकता, बिकॉज आई हैव नॉट गॉन इनटू दैट। सो उस नक्शे के मुताबिक तो उसके मुताबिक नक्शा बढ़ता गया और 1903 में जब कर्जन वाइसरॉय और गवर्नर जनरल थे, उस समय ब्रिटिश इंडिया वाज एट इट्स पीक, बिकॉज उस समय अगर आप देखें तो बर्मा और उधर सेलोन और एडन जो एडन वाज अ पार्ट ऑफ बॉम्बे प्रेसिडेंसी, तो दैट वाज द मैप ऑफ ब्रिटिश इंडिया एट दैट टाइम। तो ब्रिटिश इंडिया का जो मैप, ब्रिटिश इंडिया एरियाज विच वर डायरेक्टली अंडर ब्रिटिश इंडिया एंड एरियाज ओवर विच ब्रिटिश इंडिया had you know, I mean the Indian princes were in subsidiary alliances with them. So वो नक्शा था। तो जब 1947 में जब तक हम आते हैं तो हमारे पास 11 प्रोविंसेस थी, उनमें से 2 तो चली गई कम्प्लीटली पाकिस्तान में, सिंध और नॉर्थ वेस्ट फ्रंटियर प्रोविंस, और 2 का जो था वो बंगाल और पंजाब, दे बिकेम ईस्ट बंगाल एंड वेस्ट बंगाल एंड ईस्ट पंजाब एंड वेस्ट पंजाब, जिसमें वेस्ट बंगाल केम टू इंडिया एंड ईस्ट पंजाब केम टू इंडिया, and that's how, you know, the evolution of the modern state, the modern nation state of India comes into being. Now इसमें एक चीज़ जो हमें गौर करनी है, एक है सिविलाइजेशनल भारत और एक है नेशन स्टेट ऑफ इंडिया। सो नेशन स्टेट जो है उसकी एक टेरिटरी होती है, सिविलाइजेशंस की टेरिटरी नहीं होती है, बिकॉज सिविलाइजेशन कैन एक्सटेंड बियॉन्ड द नेशन स्टेट, राइट। सो सिविलाइजेशन स्टेट को अगर हम स्क्रिप्चर के माध्यम से देखें या फिलोसफिकल डिस्कोर्स के माध्यम से देखें तो इट कैन एक्सटेंड बियॉन्ड द बाउंड्रीज ऑफ द नेशन स्टेट। सो दैट्स अ क्लियर डिस्टिंक्शन दैट वी हैव टू मेक बिटवीन द नेशन स्टेट ऑफ इंडिया एंड द सिविलाइजेशनल स्टेट ऑफ भारत।
So is it right to say that it was the British who actually gave us that nation, that identity of a nation state?
इसमें ऐसा कह सकते हैं हम कि जो मॉडर्न नेशन स्टेट, जिसको हम मॉडर्न नेशन स्टेट कहते हैं, दैट इज आफ्टर द ट्रीटी ऑफ वेस्टफेलिया। सो उससे पहले तो it was civilizations, right? So you had the European civilization, you had the Ottoman Empire, which was also in the nature of a civilization. तो civilization से एक nation state में लाना, तो this is a European concept, right? So sometimes what happens is कि in political science or in polity, we try to impose certain concepts which may not be ours. But now, as things stand today, the entire world is run on the notion of a modern state as devised under the Treaty of Westphalia. So उस context में अगर हम देखें तो भारत और इंडिया जिसकी टेरिटरी completely defined है, that is under Article 1, Schedule 1 of the Indian Constitution. In fact, the first article and the first schedule lays down that this is the territory of India. So कई बार जब when people ask me about, you know, the new map which has been put up on in the parliament, so I keep telling them that look, our commitment is to the Constitution, and the Constitution has laid down a territory of India. So our commitment is to that territory of India as has been laid down under Article 1, Schedule 1 of the Constitution.
तो चलिए आर्टिकल 1 शेड्यूल 1 ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पे बात करते हैं। 1947 में व्हेन वी गॉट आवर इंडिपेंडेंस, और जो हमारे फर्स्ट सेट ऑफ लीडर्स थे जिनको ये जिम्मेदारी सौंपी गई, व्हाट इंडिया सॉ वाज आल्सो अ चेंज इन द बाउंड्रीज, द एक्सटर्नल बाउंड्रीज, जिसमें पाकिस्तान, ईस्ट पाकिस्तान में।
पहली तो एक चीज मैं आपसे बताऊं लिपिका कि जो हमारी बाउंड्रीज हैं, दीज हैव बीन ड्रॉन बाय द एम्पायर, राइट। तो चाहे वो डोरेंट हो या रैडक्लिफ हो, एक तो ये भी हमें इस बात का एहसास होना चाहिए कि दीज बाउंड्रीज वर नॉट एस्टैब्लिश्ड विद पॉपुलर कंसेंसस। ये हमने तो नहीं तय किया कि हम डोरेंट लाइन को ड्रॉ करें, और डोरेंट लाइन ने प्रॉब्लम ना केवल हमारे लिए की, लेकिन पाकिस्तान में आज आप देख रहे हैं पेशावर में कितनी जबरदस्त प्रॉब्लम हो रही है व्हेन लॉट ऑफ अफगान्स आर बीइंग आस्क्ड टू लीव दैट प्लेस। नाउ इन फैक्ट अफगानिस्तान डिड नॉट रिकॉग्नाइज पाकिस्तान फॉर अ लॉन्ग टाइम बिकॉज पाकिस्तान आल्सो इनहेरिटेड द सेम बाउंड्रीज। सो एंड अफगानिस्तान सेड वी डोंट एक्सेप्ट दिस। So our problems, whether it is with vis-a-vis Tibet, vis-a-vis Pakistan, vis-a-vis less with Myanmar, with Nepal also, because Nepal के साथ भी तो हमारी एक border को लेके issue चल रहा है हमारा।
Correct.
ये सब जो हमारे issues हैं, they also emanate from the fact that the boundaries or the borders of our country have not been decided by the people. So it's not a democratically elected Republic of India entering into a sovereign agreement with another country. So it's been an imposed line. So that is the real challenge that we have. And I think जैसे जैसे हम mature हो रहे हैं as a democracy, we need to take a relook at our borders and redefine them the way we would like to redefine them, rather than, you know, carry on with something which has been imposed on us.
That's a very interesting thought that you've brought into the conversation और मैं इस पे वापस आऊँगी सर, लेकिन going back to the point जब 1947 में the external boundaries were imposed upon us, हमको वो freedom नहीं थी कि हम अपनी external boundaries choose कर सकें, लेकिन internal boundaries की हमने जिम्मेवारी उठाई.
बिल्कुल जिम्मेवारी उठाई और ये इसकी जो tradition है, this I would trace back to महात्मा गांधी रिटर्न टू इंडिया. जब वो 1915 वो पहले आ गए थे, लेकिन 1915 तक वो एक सॉलिड पोजीशन में आ गए थे भारत में. और जब उन्होंने कांग्रेस के अंदर ज़्यादा उनका जब उन्होंने ज़्यादा कांग्रेस में अपना योगदान दिया, तो उस समय उनको ये रियलाइज़ हुआ कि भारत में हम अगर हमें फ्रीडम की बात करनी है तो हमें अपनी भाषाओं की भी बात करनी पड़ेगी. That is why the Congress reorganized herself, and let me clarify that the Congress that I'm talking about is the national movement, the Congress of the national movement, जिसके अंदर थे, उसमें मोहम्मद अली जिन्ना भी थे, उसमें M.M. मालवीय भी थे, उसमें आचार्य कृपलानी भी थे, उसमें आचार्य नरेंद्र देव भी थे. तो it was a sort of a platform for a lot of people who believed in self-determination. A lot of people who were democratic in their thought and people who wanted to do things. बाद में differences हुए और differences तो किसी भी movement में आएंगे, लेकिन उस कांग्रेस ने ये resolve किया कि हमें अपनी यूनिट्स को तो लिंग्विस्टिक बेसिस पे करना है. इसलिए कन्नड़ कांग्रेस बनी, मराठा कांग्रेस बनी, सिंध कांग्रेस बनी, और ये आर्टिकल ऑफ फेथ था कि हम भारत की लिंग्विस्टिक रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन हम करेंगे. दिस वाज अ कमिटमेंट विच द कांग्रेस हैड गिवन. एंड इसमें जो 4 मेन हमारे जिनको आप हम कह सकते हैं आइडियोलॉजिकल फाउंटेन हेड्स ऑफ आवर नेशनल मूवमेंट, all disagreeing on most, all of them had very different views on how the country has to be run. You know, for example, Sardar Patel believed in a very strong civil service. He felt that, all right, the civil service is important because you have to run a modern state. Nehru was more inspired in many ways by the communist parties, both in Soviet Union, more in Soviet Union because China तो तब नया liberate हुआ था. तो उनको लगा कि शायद हम इसमें बहुत ज़्यादा कार्टर बेस्ड, मतलब जिस तरह CPSU ने कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी का बड़ा ज़बरदस्त रोल था सोवियत यूनियन की ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन में, तो ही वॉज नॉट एज एनामर्ड बाय द सिविल सर्विस एज सरदार पटेल वॉज. देन यू हैव Ambedkar. You know, Ambedkar also was keen on a strong state. So these 4 people had very different views. And Ambedkar felt that if we go in for too much decentralization, if we go in for Panchayati Raj, then maybe there will be a lot of problems. You know, the minorities will suffer, especially the scheduled castes will suffer because there will be a majoritarianism. So ये 4 लोग जो थे, जो 4 हम कह सकते हैं जो महानुभाव थे, उन सब की बाकी इश्यूज में तो काफ़ी डिफरेंसेस थे कि देश को कैसे चलाना है, लेकिन द कंट्री हैज़ टू बी रीऑर्गेनाइज ऑन लिंग्विस्टिक लाइंस. इन चारों की एक कंसेंसस थी.
Okay.
तो इसलिए जो रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन हुआ देश का, उसमें इनिशियल बहुत ज़्यादा डिफिकल्टीज नहीं हुई बिकॉज इट वाज एन एक्ट, इट वाज समथिंग विच द फ्रीडम मूवमेंट हैड ऑलरेडी एग्रीड एंड एक्सेप्टेड. थोड़ा सा इसमें आफ्टर द वायलेंस ऑफ द पार्टीशन ऑफ पंजाब इसको थोड़ा सा ब्रेक लगाने की, I mean, they felt that they should give it some time, but the commitment was always there.
तो ये जो रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन शुरू हुआ सर, पहले तो ये समझाइए कि what was the legal requirement for this reorganization?
No, apart from legal, there was the legal.
एक linguistic
नहीं, एक मैं आपसे निवेदन कर रहा हूँ. देखिए, this reorganization started because of a fast, by 2 fasts were taken. I mean, जब ये जो यूनाइटेड मद्रास जब तब था, एंड जब सी राजगोपालाचारी जब चीफ मिनिस्टर थे, तो ही ट्राइड टू शिफ्ट द कोर्स ऑफ द रिवर वाटर्स फ्रॉम द तेलुगु स्पीकिंग एरियाज टू द तमिल स्पीकिंग एरिया. सो दैट वाज द स्पर ऑफ द फर्स्ट फास्ट ऑन टू डेथ इन इंडिपेंडेंट इंडिया. स्वामी सीताराम ने किया, लेकिन उनको फिर विनोबा भावे ने कन्विंस किया कि छोड़ दीजिए, हम सेटलमेंट करेंगे.
अच्छा.
बाद में पोटी श्रीरामल्लू, who was also a freedom fighter, he went on fast unto death and he died. And when he died, I think on 15 December 1952, उसके बाद में it was very difficult to control the mass upsurge in the Telugu-speaking regions of the Madras state. And within 3 days, Nehru announced that yes, we will create an Andhra state. So that is Andhra 1.0. That is the taking away of the Telugu-speaking districts from the state of Madras. तब भी क्योंकि हमारा हैदराबाद वगैरह जो थे, इसकी हैदराबाद वाज अ स्टेट जिसके अंदर तेलुगु स्पीकर्स भी थे और मराठी स्पीकर्स भी थे, कन्नड़ स्पीकर्स भी थे, तो उसकी रिऑर्गेनाइजेशन बाद में आती है। लेकिन इस आंध्रा स्टेट जैसी बनती है उसी समय पे स्टेट्स रिऑर्गेनाइजेशन कमीशन का भी गठन होता है। एंड वंस द स्टेट्स रिऑर्गेनाइजेशन कमीशन इज क्रिएटेड with K.M. Panikkar and Abul Fazal and H.N. Kunzru. So these three people were asked to be part of the States Reorganization Commission. So they toured the whole country and they received 1.5 lakh memorandum, you know, कि कैसे होना चाहिए. And when they would go to different parts of the country, तो जब वो रांची में गए तो एक उनको एजिटेशन प्रोटेस्ट मिली कि ये सेपरेट झारखंड होना चाहिए, सेपरेट ट्राइबल स्टेट होना चाहिए। जब वो पटना में गए तो उनको एजिटेशन मिला कि स्टेट को रिऑर्गेनाइज नहीं होना चाहिए बिकॉज बिहार डिडंट वांट टू लूज दैट पार्ट। सो ये चलता रहा, लेकिन this process started. So the States Reorganization Commission then was more or less, they gave their report in 1955, which was implemented in 56, in which the southern states were reorganized.
Okay.
So you got Madras, the name continued to be Madras, Mysore, the name continued to be Mysore, and then you had Kerala. So these four southern states, and Andhra Pradesh was also made. Andhra Pradesh was made by including the Telugu speaking areas of Hyderabad, so that became Andhra Pradesh 2.0, as I would like to call it. So that's how this thing happened. तो जब ये रीऑर्गेनाइज हो गया, लेकिन एक इसमें बड़ा सिग्निफिकेंट प्लस ये मध्य प्रदेश और राजस्थान वगैरह ये एरियाज को हमने रीऑर्गेनाइज किया, लेकिन इसमें एक जो सिग्निफिकेंट चेंज रह गया वो ये था कि बॉम्बे स्टेट, बॉम्बे, पंजाब, असम एंड बंगाल, these were not reorganized, and the argument that was given by the SRC was that, look, these are states which have a border with Pakistan.
Okay.
So we want states which are bordering Pakistan to be large states,
okay,
so that they have the ability to be the first line of defense vis-a-vis Pakistan. So that argument was there for a long time, but you know, the march of history is such that you cannot stop the events, because once reorganization took place here, there was a big agitation in Bombay state at that point of time, which led to the creation of Maharashtra and Gujarat in 1960. And then once this happened, then you see Nagaland was created in 1960. So हर state का एक अपना एक कारण है, there is a reason. So more than the administrative requirements, it was the combination of accepting political demands from our people.
From the people.
And this is something which is so different with what was happening to our neighbors. You know, in Pakistan, for example, they were not respecting linguistic diversity. And because of not respecting linguistic diversity, you know, that is why Pakistan finally broke up. And in fact, there's a very interesting chapter in this book, which it's just called Shastri's India versus Ayub's Pakistan.
Okay.
So in Shastri's India, we were beginning to, we accepted the fact that yes, there'll be popular assertions and there'll be popular movements, and if there are popular movements, we've got to accept it. So that was India's advantage. That was because we were a democracy, and agitations were accepted. It was okay to agitate, it was okay to make an assertion, and then it was also okay to, you know, sort of make reasonable adjustments, because at the end of the day, you cannot, because in a country of our size, you cannot, everything cannot be organized on absolutely clear lines, because in the border areas, there'll always be a little issue. I mean, we still have that issue in Punjab.
Correct.
We still have that issue, you know, that Maharashtra, Karnataka border. That issue will always be there. So we have to find creative solutions to that as well.
So what I understand is that initially, at least our founding fathers were clear that it has to be democratically done, based on linguistic, you know, backgrounds, and it was based on the demands of people that from time to time the states were reorganized.
Yes, the states were reorganized, and we accepted that principle. That yes, you see, our principle always has been that India, Bharat, इसके टेरिटरी में कोई चेंज नहीं होगा, इसकी बाउंड्री में चेंज नहीं होगा, इसके बॉर्डर में चेंज नहीं होगा, लेकिन इंटरनल बाउंड्री जो है उसमें हम रीएडजस्ट कर सकते हैं। और इसीलिए आफ्टर द फर्स्ट राउंड ऑफ लिंग्विस्टिक यू नो रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन, एक जो सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट चीज जो हम कई बार उसको भूल जाते हैं वो ये है कि नागालैंड जब बना एक सेपरेट स्टेट, दैट वाज अ मेजर पॉइंट इन इंडियाज हिस्ट्री, because that was the acceptance of the fact that if there is an ethnic group which agrees to be, which wants to settle or which wants political expression, it will be accepted. You see, because the SRC had said that a small state is not financially or administratively viable. And when Nagaland was made in 1963, it was certainly not financially viable. It was not administratively possible to do it because it was, parts of it were under NEFA and other things. So, but we agreed that yes, it can be done. Lekin jis din Nagaland bana, usi din foundations of Mizoram had been created. Usi din Arunachal was made. I mean, in many ways, you know, unki bhi creation ho gayi thi.
Correct.
उसी समय Assam की reorganization की बात भी almost एक्सेप्ट हो गई थी, बिकॉज एक बार जब आप एक एथनिक ग्रुप के साथ सेटल करेंगे तो बाकी एथनिक ग्रुप्स भी डिमांड करेंगे और वो डिमांड लेजिटिमेट है, और अगर वो डिमांड इंडियन यूनियन के अंदर उसको इनकॉर्पोरेट किया जा सकता तो क्यों नहीं। इसी हमारा जो एकेडमी में जो है नाना भाषा नाना मत नाना परिधान विविधेर माजे देखो मिलन महान, so I think that is a very important line for all of us. I mean, which national anthem in the world says Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Maratha, Dravid, Utkal, Banga? So in our conception itself, we've looked at India. I mean, India is Bharat is there, but Bharat के अंदर जो उसके जो diverse हैं, languages हैं, इनकी acceptance, इनकी recognition शुरू से हमारे साथ रही है.
Before we move ahead, just a small reminder to hit the subscribe button. और शायद यही रीज़न था कि कुछ सालों बाद फिर एंड वेरी रिसेंटली एंड दैट इज़ द टाइम जब व्हेन वी वर आल्सो बोर्न एंड वी नो दैट दिस हैपेंड, तो उत्तराखंड बना, आंध्र प्रदेश और तेलंगाना का सेपरेशन जो है वो डिवाइड हुआ।
I prefer to use the word reorganization.
Reorganization.
You see, separation is a very is not the right word. So I'll use the word reorganization.
But sir, do you also think कि जब हम ये freedom लोगों को देते हैं टू चूज, आप चाहे वो लैंग्वेज के बेसिस पे हो, एथनिसिटी के बेसिस पे हो, कल को वो बिलीफ सिस्टम्स के बेसिस पे भी हो सकती है।
देखिए, एक चीज बड़ी क्लियर है कि लैंग्वेज एज द बेसिस ऑफ रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन हैज बीन एक्सेप्टेड। इनफैक्ट जब मास्टर तारा सिंह और जो पहली डेलीगेशन जब गया सिख लीडर्स का अंबेडकर के पास टू डिमांड अ सेपरेट एरिया फॉर द सिख्स, ही सेड लुक आई कैन नॉट सपोर्ट दैट, बट इफ यू आस्क फॉर अ पंजाबी सूबा आई विल सपोर्ट इट, बिकॉज पंजाबी एज अ लैंग्वेज डिजर्व्स अ स्टेट.
ओके.
So that point was made very clear that India is not, and Ambedkar is on record saying that we are not a federation of religions, we are not a federation of but we accept that there is language diversity, and language as the basis of reorganization was accepted in the first round. बाद में जब नॉर्थ ईस्ट की बात आई तो नॉर्थ ईस्ट के स्पेसिफिक कंडीशंस को देखते हुए वहाँ की जो डाइवर्स एथनिसिटीज को पॉलिटिकल स्पेस देने के लिए ये हुआ, उसका भी एक कॉन्टेक्स्ट है. Because FISO had a major, long-standing agitation which was started by FISO right at the time of independence. So when a group of Nagas, FISO said that I don't want to be a part of India, but when a majority of the Nagas said that we want to give up the path of agitation and we want to integrate with the Indian Union, that's how Nagaland was created in 1963 actually. So हमारे यहाँ जो एक remarkable चीज़ जो हमारे देश में है कि कल का rebel आज का चीफ मिनिस्टर होता है. The first chief minister of Mizoram was a rebel. Was a rebel. He was fighting a militant war against the Indian state, and yet he became the chief minister. So the ability to absorb, the ability to incorporate varying viewpoints, getting those who were dissidents into the mainstream. That has been the remarkable success of Indian democracy.
Sir, but वहीं पे ये सवाल भी उठते हैं कि has it also maybe led to further divide? Because अगर आज के परिवेश में हम देखें, so there is a growing divide between the Hindi speaking and the non-Hindi speaking belt. That too is a linguistic based argument.
इसमें लिपिका दो चीज़ें हैं
जी. एक
तो ये है कि जब हम पूरे देश में ट्रैवल करते हैं तो एक तरफ तो बहुत ज़्यादा इंटीग्रेशन हो रही है और एक तरफ एक पॉलिटिकल डिमांड बन रही है. सो देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन द इमोशनल इंटीग्रेशन ऑफ द कंट्री and the political demands which different groups in the country will raise at various points of time. You are much younger than me, so you will not perhaps recall, but I do know that when I was visiting Tamil Nadu as a probationer when we went for Bharat Darshan, so there was no Hindi signboard in Madras city, and it looked to be very different. But today, when you go to, certainly in Hyderabad and Bengaluru, but even in Chennai, I mean, there is a political opposition to Hindi, but Hindi movies are running there. The demographics has changed. I mean, the number of people who are Hindi speaking in Chennai is on the rise. So India is changing very rapidly. You see, and especially the metros. See, Bombay is no longer a Marathi city. Calcutta is no longer a Bengali city. Hyderabad is no longer a Telugu city. I mean, it is a Telugu city. I mean, Calcutta is a Bengali city, but Bengalis are outnumbered by those for whom Bangla is not the first language. So एक पूरा मज़ेदार एक चर्न जो आ रहा है हमारे देश की डेमोग्राफी में, इसको हम अनदेखा नहीं कर सकते. और इसके साथ साथ पॉलिटिकल असर्शन तो रहेगी. Political assertion of the Dravidian parties is one aspect, and the integration of India emotionally, economically, through Bollywood, through Tollywood, through Collywood, all this is soft power. That is another thing. So a lot of things which were earlier not acceptable, which were earlier not perhaps so visible, now that thing, I mean, our dress sense, for example, I mean, throughout the country, the dress sense is changing, right? So all of us are getting into a national sort of a dress, both for men and for women. So it's even the sartorial changes are becoming very clear. Yes, there are differences, but these differences are getting, what should one say, are getting more accepted. I mean, where did you get, I mean, when Kapurthala हमारे शहर में जब पहली बार किसी ने डोसा जॉइंट खोला था, इडली जॉइंट खोला था, तो people say ये कैसे होगा, इडली डोसा कौन खाएगा? And now, in Amritsar, the variety of dosas which you can get in Amritsar are phenomenal. Your cuisine has become national, right? So earlier it was only because the truck drivers were from Punjab mostly. So first you started getting dal makhni and parathas all over the country. Then now today you get all foods all over the country. So a lot of changes are happening because of economic integration, because of cultural integration. I would also say because of the All India services, because of the army, because of Bollywood, because of cinema, because of theatre, because of so many things. So it's a wonderful amalgam.
Only a civil servant can say something like that, because for all others it's complete chaos.
No, come on. There's some beauty in this wide thing. You see, I recall that even in the Hornbill Festival in Nagaland, for example, I mean, Bollywood tunes do come in, right? So and then you see these Nagas, these two Tetsio sisters, when they sing Punjabi songs, Gedi Lani hai Patiale de vich, it's so wonderful. I mean, so you have these Tetsio sisters, singing a song on Patiala, which is really remarkable. So I think that is the beauty of our country.
So political and maybe governance factors that require us to reorganize our states. But अगर एक simple citizen के तौर पे हम ये समझना चाहें, so what happens when say suddenly you decide कि आज से ये boundary के उस side लोग आंध्राइट्स हैं और इस साइड लोग तेलंगाइट्स हैं, या इस बाउंड्री के आगे लोग उत्तराखंडी हैं, उससे पहले यूपी वाले हैं?
तो ये चीज़ है लिपिका कि ये सडन ओवरनाइट तो होता नहीं जी. एवरी रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन, बिफोर एनी रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन देयर इज आइदर अ वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग political move, there is a strong either a movement or there's a lot of discussion which happens. ये थोड़ी है कि आज ही हमने कह दिया कि अब कल से ये बन जाएगा. आप you look at Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, there are specific historic reasons why it happens. You see, Uttarakhand के पीछे एक पूरी चिपको movement का एक पूरा background है. I've just written 3 articles on that. But more than that, Uttarakhand was made because if once this Mandal Commission order had come reserving 27% 27% seats for the OBCs, and Uttarakhand region में OBCs है ही नहीं, मतलब 3% हैं. तो जब ओवरऑल पॉपुलेशन ऑफ द हिल डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स में जब OBCs नहीं थे, तो उस समय जो डिमांड यही थी कि इस ऑर्डर को आप हिल डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स में मत लगाइए. सो दैट वाज द फर्स्ट डिमांड. Now, at that point of time, Mulayam Singh was looking at his constituency. Of course. So, for his larger constituency in UP, he says, no, I will not change. Now, if and I would again think it's a counterfactual. You know that had Mulayam Singh said that this order is not applicable to the hill districts, then maybe Uttarakhand would not have been made, because Uttarakhand में कोई बहुत deep resentment against the state नहीं था. Especially because Uttarakhand से ही तो some of the most stalwart chief ministers of UP have come from Uttarakhand. Correct. So Govind Ballabh Pant, you know, then Mr. Govind Ballabh Pant, उसके बाद में Narayan Dutt Tiwari, Hemwati Nandan Bahuguna, these were stalwart leaders of the UP. और एक और चीज आप देखते हैं कि जब ये not in the times of Govind Ballabh Pant, but certainly in the times of Hemwati Nandan Bahuguna and ND Tiwari, जब चिपको movement ने कोई भी demand raise की, तो that demand was accepted. So if you have made a demand, like चिपको के बाद उन्होंने कहा कि भाई फॉरेस्ट सेलिंग बंद होनी चाहिए, ठीक है, वो HN बहुगुना सेट ठीक है बंद कर देते हैं, फिर दोबारा इशू आया, फिर ऑक्शन की बात है, ND तिवारी से ठीक है कर देते हैं. उसके बाद में जब ND तिवारी के बाद जब राम नरेश यादव बने चीफ मिनिस्टर यूपी के, and he did not respond to this agitation at all, so resentment starts. So resentment is a function of several factors, and this was the spur, because if you were to apply 27% reservation in educational and employment opportunities for a region within a state where the demographics does not support this, there is bound to be agitation. There's bound to be agitation. So again, this is a function of how political leaders look at things from their perspective. So we have to look at the political lens also all the time. You know, we cannot not accept that politics is a very important determinant of the way we are organized, or the way we think, or the way we look at issues, you know. Of
course, and that is the reason we see a lot of resentment against the delimitation exercise that is being announced by Amit Shah ji. Every second day there's a statement being made. But before I come to that, just two quick questions. Through this process, have there been any states that have benefited a lot, and have there been any states that have not really benefited through this exercise?
It's a much larger question, because 71 के सेंसस के बेसिस पे जो हमारी करंट चल रही है उसके अंदर एक एनोमलीज तो हैं, because you see in a voter in Lakshadweep or in Sikkim, उसकी जो value of vote है, compare that to the value of a vote for a person in Rajasthan. There's a lot of difference, so that it goes against the principle of equity in terms of vote, right? So because of that, what has happened is that the representation of the north in terms of population is frozen, right? Now the south wants that you know, if because अगर दोबारा से इस current population के basis पे अगर करेंगे तो यूपी की सीट्स बढ़ेंगी, बिहार की सीट्स बढ़ेंगी, और पंजाब की सीट्स कम होगी, हमारे उत्तराखंड की भी एक सीट कम हो जाएगी, हिमाचल की भी सीट कम हो जाएगी, केरला की कम होगी, तमिलनाडु की कम होगी, तो इसलिए एक खलबली, एक रिजेंटमेंट तो होगा. So you know, because everybody also wants a share in the governance of the country,
of course,
and the share in the governance of the country will come in how powerful you are in terms of political representation. So that issue is there. So it has to be looked at in many ways, you know, and a lot of research is currently going on into this subject. So we can discuss that, you know.
But do you think that this delimitation process, if and when it is implemented,
एक तो ये इशू ये है कि अभी सेंसस जो है, अगर अब होता भी है तो भी अगले साल तक तो नहीं हो पाएगा. अगले साल तक डिलिमिटेशन नहीं हो पाएगी. तो एटलीस्ट you see, अभी I'm just back from a visit to Chennai. Of course, it was a private visit to attend a very very nice marriage. But जो मुझे feeling जो वहाँ लगी कि Tamil Nadu is going to polls in 2026. So certainly they don't want it to happen, because it will also affect the Vidhan Sabha constituencies.
Of course.
You see, after all, ये भी फैक्ट है कि एक MLA एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी को नर्चर करता है. सडनली अगर उसकी कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी चेंज हो जाएगी तो it will create issues for them, and yet it is an issue that has to be resolved, because how long can we continue with the 71 figures? We will have to reorganize ourselves. And इसकी reorganization करने में there are some thoughts which are now being expressed by a whole set of people. So that's because you see, to my mind, some of the suggestions that are being offered, one is that we reorganize the larger states,
okay,
so that the asymmetry amongst the states comes down. You see, we cannot increase the size of Sikkim. We cannot increase the size of Lakshadweep, and we cannot also say कि अब Lakshadweep को हम Malabar के साथ add कर देंगे. That is not likely to happen. And it's also not desirable. We can't merge the Sikkim constituency with Darjeeling. So, but what we can do is that we can reorganize some of the larger states to ensure that the intra-state parity is there. तो कुछ जो suggestions हैं वो ये है कि ऐसा reorganize करें कि किसी भी state की overall representation लोकसभा में 10% से ज़्यादा ना हो. You know, so that because in the current regime of things, I mean, UP is big.
Huge.
UP is huge, and after reorganization, it will become huger. You know, if you use that term, और भी बड़ा हो जाएगा.
जी.
तो जब हम भी किसी भी चीज़ को compare करते हैं, no comparison is an absolute. Comparison is always in relation to somebody else. You know, Three Idiots में जैसे वो कहते हैं ना कि I'm not. It's not that whether I do well, but I'm interested in how. And how you are doing, you know, because I'm happy if I do well, but if you do much better than me, then I'm not very happy. That's a problem.
But
so, sorry.
Apolitical way में अगर हम ये खोजने की कोशिश करें, तो what should be the way based on which further reorganization should happen? What are the criteria or the parameters?
You cannot take away politics from this. That is number one.
Okay.
I've been thinking about this issue a lot. And in fact, this is the first time I'll be giving this proposition here. You see, one is that the way we have organized our governance, you know, you have the union list, you have the state list, and you have the concurrent list. And under the 73rd, 74th Amendment, we have also said that we can devolve these powers to the municipal corporations and the Zilla Panchayats. The fact is that has not been done. You see, one of the ways in which another very creative way of handling this would be to make the Zilla Panchayats and the municipal corporations so strong that the day-to-day governance moves there. You see, today what has happened is that the state government is the fulcrum. Now, if the state government is not as much of a fulcrum, but if all my issues are being sorted out by my Zilla Panchayat or by municipal corporation, then perhaps this aspect will become less important. You know, so one of the things that we also got to realize is that the powers are concentrated with the PM and the CM, and to some extent the DM, right?
Correct.
So if this power is reorganized and the Zilla Panchayats become more powerful, then perhaps the political expression of people can get reflected there. Now that is not to say that we don't, because Vidhan Sabha constituencies also have to increase. You know, we have less than 4,000 MLAs in the country. So one way is to freeze the number of MP seats, but increase the number of Vidhan Sabha seats.
Okay.
And then get some sort of a representation from these Vidhan Sabhas into the Rajya Sabha, you know, so that there is some sort of a parity. So these are all things that we have to be discussed in great detail and at great length. And also the fact that, you know, because at some point of time, we will have to bring in delimitation. We will have to reorganize because democracy will also demand that people get their expressions, they get their representation. So I think now you look at a constituency in say Rajasthan and compare it with Lakshadweep, there's a world of difference, you know.
इसी के बाद अगर हम थोड़ा और आगे चलें तो and if we take it a little further in terms of you know, how this reorganization of states or constituencies happens, doesn't it also pose a problem अगर बहुत extensive decentralization होता है तो at some point in monitoring, you know, especially such a large
देखिए दो तीन चीजें हैं इसमें लिपिका, एक तो ये है कि जो subjects union list में हैं, those are the ones which require an all India position.
Okay.
Right. For instance, our defense policy, our external affairs issues, our defense preparedness, our nuclear establishments, our free trade agreements, communications policy. These are things which require a centralized control and a centralized structure.
Right.
And this is not affected when you are delegating power. You see, the powers which need to be delegated further are powers like, you know, and this has been listed very clearly in the 73rd, 74th Amendment. But उनको implement इसलिए नहीं किया गया है because just as the Prime Minister would want more powers with the Union, the Chief Ministers would want more power with the state government.
True.
You see, अगर आप इसको एक तरीके से देखें, तो अगर if there was a mayor of Calcutta who was elected by Calcutta, by the people of Greater Calcutta, and उसके पास powers भी हैं, उसके पास authority है काम. तो what is the position of CM of West Bengal vis-a-vis the mayor of Calcutta? What is the position of the Chief Minister of Bombay, of Maharashtra vis-a-vis the mayor of Bombay? So if you had, in fact, दिल्ली में भी तो आपने देखा मेयर को 3 मेयर्स में कर दिया, because अगर दिल्ली का मेयर पावरफुल हो जाता तो सीएम के पास क्या है?
क्या पावर है?
But for the larger federal, the larger federal imagination, I think we will have to. We only think in terms of union and state, but we have to think in terms of union, state, and the Zilla Panchayat. Union, state, and the large metros that we have. See, the large metros have a very different imagination, and they require a very different set of political power. एक चीज़ और जो हमें realize करनी है वो ये है कि 1971 के census के मुताबिक हमारे सिर्फ 8% MPs जो हैं वो urban area से elect होते हैं. लेकिन आज हमारी अर्बन पॉपुलेशन कम से कम 30-35% हो गई होगी, एंड दिस इज एनेक्डोटल बिकॉज वी डोंट हैव द सेंसस फिगर्स टू, बट यू एंड आई नो एंड एवरीबडी नोज दैट अर्बन पॉपुलेशन टुडे वुड बी अबाउट 35% एट लीस्ट. और आने वाले दिनों में India is becoming urbanized, our metros are becoming large. So once the delimitation happens, another fallout of this will be that there will be many more people who will be representing urban constituencies. And my fond wish and hope is that the politics of an urban constituency will be different from the politics of a rural constituency. Because in an urban constituency, you cannot appeal to one particular group or one particular section. Whereas in a rural constituency, because of the concentration of people of a particular caste, community, denomination, you can use a particular set of logic to appeal there. But you can't use that logic. I mean, for instance, contesting an election in Dehradun is different from contesting an election in Pauri Garhwal or Teri Garhwal or in Munshiari or in Pithoragarh. To just give you a small example, the politics of Calcutta has to be different from the politics of, say, Midnapur. You know, the politics of Siliguri is different from the politics of Darjeeling, because Siliguri is becoming a cosmopolitan place. Whereas in Darjeeling, you can, you know, win elections by talking about the Gorkha identity. You can't win it in Siliguri because Siliguri is got so many people. Same in the case of Delhi. So as you know, demographics changes, as urbanization increases, and I'm very hopeful that we'll get a very bright set of people, and participating in urban politics is perhaps easier for the next upcoming generation than politics is in the rural areas. So, you know, that's another thought which I leave with our listeners, कि जो अगली delimitation जब भी होगी, क्योंकि अभी तो नहीं लग रहा कि अगले साल तक हो पाएगी, which means that we'll again have to amend our constitution, because the constitution has given this delimitation up to it was extended up to 2026. तो अब ये फिर कुछ तो एक्सटेंशन करनी पड़ेगी, चाहे वो 5 साल की हो, चाहे वो 25 साल की हो, जैसे डिमांड की जा रही है. लेकिन मुझे नहीं लगता कि एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिवली हम अगले साल तक सेंसस कर पाएंगे और अगले साल तक हम डिलिमिटेशन कर पाएंगे. सो वन फर्दर एक्सटेंशन ऑफ डिलिमिटेशन फ्रॉम एन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू will have to be done. Whether that is for 5 years or 25 years, that's a larger question, which will engage all political parties.
And from an administrative point of view, एक जो सवाल मैं पूछना चाह रही थी, how does the administration decide that ये specific regions को union territories के रूप में function करना चाहिए और क्यों? क्योंकि बहुत recently हमने देखा जम्मू कश्मीर और लद्दाख के सिलसिले में UTs जो है उनका क्या रोल रहा, हमने जब अपने इंडिपेंडेंस के बाद से अभी तक.
ये जो हमारे जम्मू कश्मीर की रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन को हम बाकी यूटी से थोड़ा अलग लेंगे. लेट्स टेक द केस ऑफ, सी, अंडमान एंड निकोबार आइलैंड्स तो शुरू से ही सेंट्रल टेरिटरी रहा है, मतलब शुरू से ही रहा है, बिकॉज इट वाज अ फर्स्ट अ पीनल सेटलमेंट, बाद में बहुत रिहेबिलिटेशन वैसे हुआ. लक्षद्वीप जो था वो, ऑल्दो द स्टेट्स रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन कमीशन हैड suggested that Lakshadweep, being Malayalam speaking, majority people who are Malayalam speaking should be in part of Kerala. But at that point of time, I think the Home Ministry had taken the view that it's better that Lakshadweep is a union territory, because you have to look at it in the context of Cold War of those times. And Kerala had become, the popular vote in Kerala was with the communists and the PSP at that point of time. So I think perhaps at that point of time it was felt कि in island territories को तो directly Union of India के पास होना चाहिए. And I think it's very sensible because today when we look at Lakshadweep and Andaman and Nicobar Islands, in terms of our strategic outreach for blue waters, then these island archipelago, these islands become very, very important.
Very important.
In fact, all our, even if it was part of Kerala, we would have still got the sovereign rights over this thing. But like now we have projects in Nicobar, we have projects in defense establishments, integrated defense, blue waters. Ko agar hame jana hai, so it is better to have that area with you. So some union territories are there from the point of view of national defense.
Okay.
Some union territories have been there with us as a historical, past. Chandigarh is a classic example of, because although it should have been a part of Punjab, yet for various reasons it was not a part of Punjab, and by this time people in Chandigarh don't want to be a part of either Haryana or Chandigarh because it's far better. From the point of view of a citizen of a union territory, it is far better because your funding is, in fact, जम्मू कश्मीर के एम्प्लॉइज से अगर आप बात करेंगे तो दे आर वेरी हैप्पी बिकॉज उनको सारे बैक एरियाज भी मिल गए. उनकी पे स्केल जो थी, their pay scale is the same as that of the central government. Whereas if it was part, Jammu Kashmir had a deficit budget. Jammu Kashmir's budget was running into deficit. So a lot of times, a lot of people would demand कि हमें UT बना दीजिए because it is better to be a UT from a purely financial aspect of it, from the point of view of administration.
So when you
but these are political decisions. These are not necessarily, except in the case of Lakshadweep, which I think was administrative. Chandigarh, which is also administrative, but a lot of these decisions are also political.
But doesn't it also then hint to the fact that when it comes to economics, it's better to be centralized than to be decentralized?
You see, economics is not everything, and at the end of the day, you want political assertion, you want to have your control, you want to decide your own destiny. So, I won't buy this argument completely that just economics or just financial thing, and this also has to be an interim measure. At the end of the day, every unit must be able to raise its own resources. एक और चीज़ हो जाती है ना कि जब ये होता है तो फिर in fact जिला पंचायत and municipalities have not become so strong because they are not doing enough to raise resources on their own. दो चीज़ें हैं, एक तो because of GST centralization हो गई, लेकिन बहुत सारी ऐसी चीज़ें हैं जो आ जानी चाहिए थी लेकिन नहीं आई हैं for various reasons, जैसे agricultural income tax. Now, agricultural income tax at 1950s में जब agricultural income tax state subject दिया गया तो उस समय farmers की income काफ़ी कम थी and it was not, our farming was not monetized. But as farming has become monetized, it's for the states to implement the agricultural income tax, and if they were to do it, for the larger farmers or farmers who are, growing commercial crops, farmers who have, plantations of grapes or plantations of Alphonse mangoes or plantations of, strawberries or various things, it is possible. But that's a political decision. Political decision at the base level, which people are reluctant to do. You see, जब GST collect हो जाता है, तो किसी को पता नहीं लगता कि कौन ले रहा है. लेकिन जब प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स का नोटिस आता है, चाहे मेरे पास आए कपूरथला म्युनिसिपैलिटी से, तो आई विल गो एंड टेल माय काउंसलर, क्या भाई यू चार्जिंग मी मनी, क्या कर रहे हो भाई आप, क्या भाई मेरे से मैं ही बचा हूँ. तो एक वो डिफरेंट रिएक्शन होती. तो आई एम वेरी रिलक्टेंट टू पे, आई माई सेल्फ आई एम रिलक्टेंट टू पे. रिलक्टेंट क्या मतलब, प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स है ही बहुत नॉमिनल, लेकिन आज की डेट में जो प्रॉपर्टी वैल्यूज हैं हमारे देश में, उनको अगर हम कोरिलेट करें with the tax on properties, it's a minuscule amount. You see, property values have risen. Property values have, touched the sky in almost all states. Haryana mein, look at the value of real estate in Haryana and Faridabad. If wealth tax was to, if property tax was to be applied in Faridabad, fairly and squarely, or in Gurgaon, these corporations would be able to finance anything that they want to do. But we are so reluctant, and that reluctance comes. It's a chicken and egg story. Because power नहीं है, इसलिए वो exert नहीं हो पा रहा. मेरे अपने conception से, when I was, in fact, I'll have to go back to saying when I was DM Murshidabad. So why can't Murshidabad Zilla Panchayat is big enough to finance a medical college, a veterinary college, an engineering college, large budgets. But वो conceptualization में नहीं आता because we are not wanting to tax you're not wanting to implement our tax regimes there. So that's a larger question. Perhaps within the many issues are there, you know. So
सर क्योंकि आपने डीएम मुर्शिदाबाद की के समय की याद की, एंड बिकॉज नाउ वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट यू एज एन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर,
डीएम मुर्शिदाबाद की, बिकॉज it continues to be one of the largest districts in the country.
Okay.
And even though the decision was taken to trifurcate the district, it has not happened yet.
Okay.
And Murshidabad was also the capital of this country for a few years till it moved to Calcutta, because when Clive won that battle, you know, with so Murshidabad was actually the capital of Bengal, the state of Bengal, and Bengal was the most prosperous province of the Mughal Empire at that time. So it's a very interesting story. I mean, how cities grow, how they become less and less important, and now Murshidabad is a shadow, is a very pale shadow of its prosperous past.
If you want to continue listening in to such interesting conversations about Bharat, do like and subscribe.